I've been drinking strong, I've been thinking wrong. Yeah, hop into my zone with the scissor home. Nah, we set up my phone, I ain't staying long. Flexing on you fakes, I ain't bend a bone. Call this culture, fuck with the code of honor. They be faking and making it rain with the stolen thunder. Some of y'all been dealing with snow, kick up your nose. Ironic that the sickest of winners developing cold. But motherfuck you waste mans. They skin pillin', fit feeling cultural spray can. Drinking Henny, pretending it brings enjoyment when y'all ain't even never comfortable in your own sin. I don't need rap to double the stacks. Front of the class, divided in dividends, fuck up the math. Look at the bag, 70 racks independent of cash. Call up the deputy, yelling got equity, don't give a fuck about cash. Don't got a million, but do them a Mac. They sending a look at the past. Fuck all these niggas, they trash, smoke up and movie, relax. And put the phone down, put the phone down. Attention has no bounds, remember what's going round. My enemies go down, vengeance is profound. But you lost your professionalism, oh wow. Fuck the deputy in all town, I'ma never leave the old house. Unapologetic, if you diabetic, I'm the swinging of your whole. Y'all been ducking, I've been daily. Couldn't get a fuck about your neighbors. Y'all got stuck and now you blame it. Couldn't get enough from all those favors, huh? Ducking, diving, payments. Couldn't get a bundle, so you're saving up on the stage. You bet any game, so you can't save this shit, will control your life. Sensitive, privileged bitches developing feelings. Had to get cancer to see all the benefits. Pulled out your debit and realized the zeros was too much to settle. So you switching parties like Popo invaded it. But still be protesting the brutality that my brothers is facing. Ay, y'all some faking bitches, fuck your favorite dishes. If it ain't got healthy, then I take the exit. Big bets, big change. Feeling spectrum of emotion in a range. I'm in my bag, I don't need rap to double the stacks. Front of the class, divided in dividends, fuck up the math. Look at the bag, 70 racks independent of cash. Call up the deputy, yelling got equity, don't give a fuck about cash. I'm in my bag, I don't need rap to double the stacks. Front of the class, divided in dividends, fuck up the math. Look at the bag, 70 racks independent of cash. Call up the deputy, yelling got equity, don't give a fuck about cash. Tell me why they say they stay, then they always go. Cause I don't want no one beside me when I'm riding home. That driver's cold got me turning heel, I can't find my soul. Got a sold out arena of thoughts inside my dome, and I cannot survive the show. It's been a minute, but I still get it. When you behind my bars, I know that you still get a sentence. But I never listen or levels to anything. So when you mention it, where there is, know that I'm your enemy. I am a hypocrite living, a bit of the ignorance missed. The imminent hurt, fuck it, put him in the dirt, it's a better way to deal with. It's turning me cynical, burning the medical, I feed my ego. Claim that I don't need to go, but really I feel like Vegeta. I need a bomber, someone would drive beyond the tours. My mind like Yoba, multiple voices trying to control you. I rolled the dice, found myself a material vice. Felt the patience over generations, been forcing my natural life.
This is for the players in the back with the show. Got your neck iced out, hiding insecurities. Hitting on these hoes with the gold, your priority. Got your presidential distance, sweet to your authority. I'ma run the road without a roll to your chain. I know my flow strong when I'm rolling to the bank. I'ma run the game, I'ma run the game, I'ma run the game.
Tell me why they say they stay, then they always go. Still I'm hoping you beside me when it's time to blow. I'm on my own, pray my cynicism don't find a home. So when you jump into conclusions, yo Geronimo, you might end up on your own. It's been a minute since I tried to mend a friendship. We don't gotta be fucking it, but we benefiting. But if you ask me, I'ma bend it, hit it, end of sentence. Pray that you don't hit me and get offended, we're reminiscing. I'ma get the dough and run, fuck that emotional junk, yeah. Don't look at me like I'm a copy of that Louis Vuitton. No. Am I a sinner to measure my inner condition and deepest desires? You gotta bring it and figure out children and bring up some whole new life. I'ma just throw these lies under the rug and over my eyes, feeding me slugs for bullets of love, but the gun's not loaded, right? I'm borderline, not commitment been normalized. Melted patience over generations, been forced by us to
This one's for the players in the back with the shouty. Got your neck iced out, hiding insecurities. Hitting on these hoes with the goals, your priority. But your presidential just to speak to your authority. I'ma run the road without a rollie or a chain. I know my flow's strong when I'm rolling to the bank. I'ma run the game, I'ma run the game, I'ma run the game. Put me down, bring me up. Lone wolf in these streets and I don't give a. Call me Kuma, bitches racist. Light up in the room, leave you fooled by faded.
I'm gonna break a bone, I'm gonna break a bone. I've been thinking wrong, shit my conscience can't condone. Yeah, cracker blokes, why you cracking jokes? I'm at your folks, packing dope, slam the dope. I am the manifestation of having no patience, hope. In the back and I'm waiting to flatten your face and I'll have no mo. It's man them wanna talk, man them wanna talk.
Ratting in the dark, phantom of the ops.
Bitch, I'm Ansari, hustle Minaj, hustling hard. Don't play the lousy, I'm sorry, I fuck with your card. You terrible fam, I don't care if you rap, I don't fuck with the bars. Wanna be a black offspring, but still don't fuck with the march. What's up with that? I'ma bust right back. Retaliation, we tan your face, this your color back. Ready to die? Front to back. Got the T.I. with the B.I. Now we bucking at.
All these motherfuckers, 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 all these.
Put me down, bring me up. Lone wolf in these streets and I don't give a. Call me Kuma, bitches racist. Light up in the room, leave you fooled by
I like my
faded.
curry with the side of butter, nah, bitch. Ain't got no worries, but the claim that I'm a convict. Yeah, I've been away, been doing 300 records a day. But when you hearing the buzz from your records, so all you can think is Guantanamo Bay.
No, I won't give you validation for fragility. Whoa, I've been running this same race since I was mini-me. Damn, Boston probably give you power for that whackness. Damn. But this the 6, I check the hour and you're back, bitch. I've been living in culture of riches and multiple bitches. They fuck up the pressure. I'm here as the witness of variable sickness. My heritage is of the shit to be getting with imminent. It's the threat if I'm appearing to stick my revisit now. I'm pausing the scene and I'm looking around. Looking right now at
all these motherfuckers, 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 all these.
John, eh? More like Ram to Krishna. Yeah, right, buddy, like your name is John.
Put me down, bring me up. Lone wolf in these streets and I don't give a. Call me Kuma, bitches racist. Light up in the room, leave you fooled by faded.
what's up? We're back. We are Keralanka. I'm Rohan.
I'm DJ AP.
And I already said this, but we are Keralanka. The Kera is for Kerala. The Lanka is for Sri Lanka.
And this is episode 2 of the Keralanka Show.
Yeah, baby.
Air horns. Cool. So before we dive into this week's episode, for those of you guys that are new, we want to spend some time just explaining the foundational elements of this show and really why we started doing this. So some of you might be familiar with the concept of intersectionality. It's the idea that people of different backgrounds, genders, ethnicities, etc. need to work together in order to achieve a common goal.
In this show, we want to explore the question of what if we applied intersectionality to the world of art.
So over the next few weeks, we have a really dope lineup of creatives, artists, entrepreneurs, etc., who not only apply intersectionality to their life, but also to their art by being able to empathize with other people's stories.
We talk to the guests about their art, translate it to a beat, and we live happily ever after.
If you can't tell, we have cue cards right there.
What are you talking about, man?
What?
That was
Don't.
off the top.
Shh. Break the fourth wall. So without further ado, we'd like to introduce this week's guest. He's a brilliant filmmaker, director, producer, writer, etc., telling really, really dope stories through a very unique medium that is film. Please make some noise for Sagi Kahane-RAPPort. Did I get the name right?
Yeah, you killed it.
I got it? All right, cool.
Cool, man.
What's
It's
up,
not
Sagi?
easy.
How you doing, man?
It's
How you
good.
feeling?
It's good. Everything's good. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
man.
me.
Yeah, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Sagi. Like you said, I'm a director. I do film and commercial stuff here in Toronto. I've been making films since I was, I don't know, I think maybe 10, I would say. But then I went to Ryerson for film studies, and that kind of kicked things off. And now, since I've graduated, I've been working, doing commercials, finishing up a documentary, which now we're going to talk about, doing some short films, festival circuit, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you recently actually directed a movie called Guyon, which essentially explores the story of the first black man in space.
First African American man in space.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so we wanna actually give the viewers at home a quick sneak peek of the trailer, if that's cool.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
why don't we roll it?
Cool.
For a kid from West Philadelphia who dreamed of being an aerospace engineer, I've had a career that has far exceeded my expectation as well as my imagination.
You know, there's a reason why it's taken us so long to get up here.
How come I have to do more?
Cool.
And we're back.
We're back, yeah. So hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Like, I think it's super cool. We want to dive into it right off the bat and really get your perspective on what you do. So, what does storytelling mean to you?
Yeah, it's a big question for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely loaded.
Yeah, no. I think storytelling often is about finding an emotion, and that can be a different thing, you know, depending on the story. I think most, at least in films, you know, that there's always like an emotion that you leave the theater with, or you close your laptop with these days with.
Yeah.
But I think all storytelling, you know, no matter the medium, kind of makes you want to feel something. And I think that's what's cool about it, because you have a range of ways to do that. You know, it can
there's
be
like so many different techniques to do that.
yeah, it can be music, it can be film, you know, it can be different parts of the film, and you can, you know, bring out different emotions through it. But I think every scene or every piece of, you know, something I do, I'm like, okay, well, what do I want people to feel? You know, it's not really what do I want to show, what do I want to say, you know, how do I want to shoot it? That's true.
Yeah.
But it's always okay. But what are they trying to feel in this piece? Yeah.
Got it. And so, like, a follow-up to that is, like, when when we make music, for instance, there's a certain emotion that music evokes for us, but also, like, that might not be the emotion that someone else sort of perceives when they sort of view something. How do you reconcile those two concepts? The emotion that you feel when making the film that you think other people are feeling versus what they actually feel?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't necessarily make the emotion that I feel in the film. I think more I'm trying to be cognizant of what people will feel, and I'm trying to push them in that direction. I think film is maybe a little less subjective than something like music. You know, if I'm making a horror film, like hopefully you're walking out scared.
For sure, yeah.
Right.
But I think there's always that level of interpretation, and I think that comes in, you know, the layers that you have in a film. You know, sometimes like the surface layer is what's happening in the scene, but the sub layer is what they're not saying. You know, what's really happening in that scene. And so you try to make a film that you try to make a film that says that sub layer in a subtle way, so that it, you know, you can feel it more than see it, but you don't lose the audience entirely.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah.
Without I hate when I have to explain my art, so I don't want to do that to you. But like,
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, in my latest film, Guy On, there's a scene where Guy's father comes back to him, to the family household after being away in the hospital for an extended stay, and is asking his kids about their schoolwork and, you know, Guy's Latin class and Guy's science project. And yeah, maybe on the surface they're just talking about school and the applications to college, but really below that, you know, there's this war between them where Guy feels almost angry at his father for leaving him, although he's still old enough to understand that anger is misplaced, because his father doesn't, you know, his father doesn't want, as you know, his father's a good guy. Like this, it's not his fault, but Guy is kind of struggling. He's, you know, 17-ish. He's in that stage where he's like, okay, there's the adult side of me saying I have to be rational, and the emotional side of me saying I'm still angry. Like, you've been gone for 6 months. So that kind of does, you have that outburst at the end of the scene, but, you know, the beginning of the scene, and I think throughout, you know, with the looks that they have, there's a sequence where they don't really say anything. It's just almost like a stare down, and then Guy loses. But, you know, you don't say that. You just kind of feel it.
Right.
That's so interesting. Yeah, would you say that like the surface layer is almost the rational side of things, and like the sub layer is the underlying emotion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then I think at the end in that scene in specific, the emotion comes out. Yeah, I think that's often how it is in my films. I think in most films, you'll see the main story. You know, I was at a talk recently with the director, Jason Reitman, who was quoting his father, Ivan Reitman, who wrote Ghostbusters, among other things. Wow. And he was saying there's the location of the film is what's going on. Mm-hmm. So take Juno, which Jason Reitman had done. Like, the location is teen pregnancy, but the plot is what's really happening, and that's the loss of innocence.
That's
so
amazing. That's super cool.
Something like that.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Cool. We're out of time for this first question,
Cool.
but we haven't actually explained the logistics of how this show sort of works, so that's what we're going to do. This is how it goes down on the Keralanka Show.
What's that?
So first what we do is AP and I are basically going to be taking turns here at the interview station, rotating, asking you questions. And then after that, like, while one of us is here at the interview station asking you a question, the other one of us is actually going to be at the creative station, building a beat in real time that reflects your story based on the answers that you gave in the previous round. And then finally, at the end, we're going to present you with the beat and the viewers at home, and we're going to explain it, and we'll all live happily ever after. Cool?
Sounds good.
Cool. So I think there's one problem. We got to figure out who's going to go to the creative station first. So gave you this coin, and we're basically going to have you flip this coin. I'm going to call it, and if I win, I'm going to choose who goes first, and if I don't, then AP's going to choose.
Cool.
Cool.
You ready?
All right, go ahead. Tails. Good coin flip, man.
Ooh, tails it is.
It's tails? Okay.
You got it.
All right, I'm gonna go to the creative station this week. So
All right,
so I'll see you in 5 minutes.
Cool.
And I'm gonna stick around.
Link it.
All right, so here at the Keralanka Show, we just like to get straight into the questions once we start. So I took a listen. Sorry, not a listen. I'm still in music mode. I took a watch to your short film, Guy On, and first of all, just amazing. You're talking about emotion and stuff, and like that's one of my later questions, so I won't go too much into it right now. But let's just say it definitely like left me feeling something, right?
Thanks.
But what was like the inspiration behind diving into a story like Guy on Bluebirds?
Well, it started with a friend of mine, Adam, who it was our thesis film at Ryerson. So, you know, everyone is tasked with creating one film for the whole year, essentially. And in the beginning, you pitch different films. And I had my own film that I was writing and working on for the pitch, and Adam was working on his. But we both wanted to work together because we'd collaborated a few times before that, and we're good friends. So he came to me and said, hey, do you want to help me with my film? And I said, yeah, do you want to help me with my film? But eventually we kind of realized we can't do both. We got to put all of, you know, all our effort into one
thing. Yeah, I get that.
So it was his story, or he had found the story initially, really, because he had wanted to tell a story about space. He'd been looking around on Wikipedia about different astronauts, and he realized he found Guy's story, and he said, wait, no one's told it, which was kind of crazy. And then he brought me on. I said, yeah, that is kind of crazy. What can we find about it? And there were just 2 children's novels, you know, very little information. And that is, you know, because of who Guy is. He's, you know, private, humble, very modest guy. But we said, okay, maybe there is something to tell. So the next step was reaching out to Guy to find out, is this okay if we do this? And can you help us tell the story? Because we knew it wasn't a story that we could tell on our own. And so, yeah, so we did. And we spent, you know, a lot of hours on the phone with him, talking with him, figuring things out. He sent us some memoirs that he kind of compiled with all the key people, dates, you know, settings, things that happened in his career. And then from there, it just took 50-something drafts to make a film. Yeah.
50-something drafts.
Yeah, something like that.
That's.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have an
Took us a long
explosion
time.
sound effect, do we?
Took us a long.
We need
time.
one of those.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So like I've wondered, like, what are the struggles from a creative's perspective when you're trying to tell someone else's story like that, right? Like personally, like I sometimes, like, I find a balance between both, but sometimes I go in with like a very strong vision of what I want when I create music, right? And other times it's a bit more like loose, like this is like going to be inspired off whatever you tell me, right? So when you're trying to tell someone else's story, like what struggles do you usually find as a creative?
I think for me, I find it less of a struggle and more of an opportunity. You know, it's because there are things that I bring in, and that's awesome. And then it's important, I think, to recognize things that I don't bring in. You know, being who I am, where I was born, my experiences in the world. But that was why I think we were as equitable as possible with the cast. And I think our rehearsals were almost less rehearsals and more discussions. Because saying, listen, I'm a white dude. You know, the story is not necessarily, I think, the one that people think it is. It's not really, a story about racism, about his struggle with that, because if you ask Guy, he'll say it's not how it was for me.
Yeah, exactly. Even when I went into watching the film, like that's what I was expecting, right? Because when I like just read the short summary of it, I was like, I went in expecting that, and then I like left it, like it was so super interesting when I left it, because I was like, oh, that's not what I expected, but like it's just that's what makes it. It's what we
expected, and when we asked Guy, you know, what kind of racism did you experience? He said, I didn't really, you know, and we said, it was the opposite. And he's like, no, I just sit down and did my work. You know, so we said, what kind of obstacles did you experience in general? And he said, nothing really. And we're like, well, you went to space. And he's like, yeah, just did my thing. And we're like, what? Like, how
does, just like so nonchalant.
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
How does a guy? And then that was our question. That was our central narrative. It was like, well, what makes Guy? Like, how do you become this super modest, super humble guy who just, you know, is happy to do his work and succeed, you know, to such a high degree? And he's obviously very intelligent, but a lot of that's his upbringing and who he is. So that was our story. And so that, you know, was why, one reason I was comfortable telling that story, because it, you know, was a story I felt somewhat equipped to tell. And then to make sure of that, we obviously did a lot of research, you know, made sure we showed the script to as many people as we could. And then the cast, our rehearsal process was more of a discussion. We're saying, okay, look, there's things I'm not going to understand about this. What can you bring in?
Right.
What can you show me? And the cast was amazing with that. One of our cast, Walter Borden, who was the grandfather, amazing guy. I mean, he's won the Order of Canada for his work as a black and gay activist. I mean, his, like, amazing. And just talking to him and getting his perspective and help, you know, just kind of guiding the cast, because, you know, they all, a lot of them knew each other and they were all super talented. So it was more of me just saying, okay, you know, I have some skills. You guys have a ton of skills, and let's just shape
like,
it.
What can I bring to the table? And like, what can you teach me?
Exactly.
Return, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And like, I guess back on the point of like, you're just able to, as a creative, like you're able to bring your own perspective to it, right? When you're telling someone else's story.
Yeah.
which is kind of like the beat, and it's perfect timing.
Yeah.
It's a transition because.
Yeah. No, but
sorry to cut you off. Okay.
no, it's
say-
okay. I
say
think
what you're
it's
about
my
to say.
perspective, but like recognizing theirs and recognizing where my perspective fits and where it doesn't, and so
Right.
that you're able to say there's stuff you have to bring, stuff I cannot bring, and I need
Right.
to get directly from Guy, and there's stuff that maybe I can bring. So
Right, and
so
you
it's
gotta
a
just like
balance.
compromise on certain things, right?
Yeah.
Dope.
All right, get out of here, AP. It's my turn.
Sorry, man. We're getting to
kicked
great
out.
conversation.
Stop hogging the goddamn mic. Come on, let's go. This guy, right?
Get him out of here.
Exactly. Welcome to the better half of the show.
Yeah, I was getting bored. Don't tell him.
Oh, wait until he has his headphones on, man, so he
Okay.
doesn't hear us, you know. All right, as a part of my opening round, I would like to request at least 3 air horns, Cheyenne.
Oh, 5 maybe.
Oh, 5?
good.
Oh, that was 5. Okay, let's go. Cool. All right, so let's hop into it. I wanted to ask you something outside of just a specific piece of work of yours,
Sure.
like just you as a director in your journey. So, have you always wanted to know that you wanted to pursue filmmaking, and were you ever sort of at a crossroads where you were sort of deciding between, I guess, sort of going the creative route and maybe more traditional academia and like a more traditional career? And if so, could you just like walk me through your thought process and how that was?
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm still at the crossroads.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. Did not expect you to say that. Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, I never considered myself an artist growing up. Honestly, I still don't. I think I was.
Wow.
I don't know.
Bold statement. Yeah.
No,
hot take.
it's never been that way. I mean, I just kind of, even when I'm making films, like, okay, this is what's like the next correct step, but there's no, sitting back and letting the art flow through me, all that stuff. I just feel like, okay, I'm just doing what's best for the film and what's best for the story. And I don't know, as a kid, I was into sciences, into math. I think when I applied to Ryerson for film, that was the only place that I had applied to an art school. The other things I had applied to were like molecular biology and engineering.
Wow.
Oh
my
a
God.
business school. It just random stuff. I take in high school, not physics, like chemistry and biology and law and all sorts of stuff. So I was very much an academic person, and I still do
Wow.
consider myself an academic person. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. So the crossroads, I think, was when I decided to come to Ryerson and study film, turn it from a hobby into maybe a career. But even then, I was like, well, I can do anything I want before law school.
Right.
Which made
true,
my
true.
parents happy.
Like you could literally.
Who
do
I'm sure
anything. Yeah.
we'll see this. And I did still think, maybe after school I'd go to law school. And it's always an option, I think
Sure.
that was always in the back of my head. But then, obviously I was enjoying film, and it was going well enough that I said, wait, okay, maybe I can actually pursue this as a career. And I think at this point, what's pushing me towards it is that I think I'd be bored doing anything else. Like it's
Okay.
it's different every single day. It's engaging in a lot of different ways, like different parts of my brain. So I'm never, waking up and saying, "Oh, back to the grind." It's
Right. It's not like
Yeah.
there's no routine.
yeah, no,
Because
not at
every
all.
day is
Every
so
single day is different.
So, okay, so you say that now.
Yeah.
That you've actually like been on set and have a couple of like really dope projects under your belt, but like taking it back to like grade 12 Sagi, like being at the crossroads of like molecular engineering versus like filmmaking.
Yeah.
Why filmmaking?
I think I didn't like chemistry as much as I thought I would.
Okay.
Which was part of it. So I said, maybe not the whole science med school
Sure.
route. And then I thought, yeah, I think really it was that. I think I just said to myself, okay, this is just my undergrad, and I can always do a master's in whatever I want, and I know I'm going to enjoy this. And Ryerson had a good program for it, and I was kind of surprised to get in. So I said, maybe this is an opportunity.
That's super dope. How is, completely flipping perspectives, but building on that answer, like, how is, like, Jewish culture when it comes to, like, taking a less risk-averse path? Because I know, like, I would love to, like, a lot of my friends would love to tell their parents, like, hey, so what? Like, I'll go to design school. I can still go to law school after. There's a safety net, and they'll probably get their ass whooped. So, like, can you talk to me about, like, were your parents comfortable with that? Like, Was there any
Yeah.
sort of societal pressures when it came to making that decision? Even if you knew it was right.
Yeah,
and
no,
even if you knew
I think there's certainly societal pressures. It's probably a Jewish thing. I think there's in a lot of other cultures as well. My parents would always say to me, "You can be any kind of doctor you want." But they're joking, obviously. But there is in the culture. It's like you can be doctor, lawyer, dentist. Those are kind of your options. But I mean, my parents have been incredibly supportive. Like, there's no way Guyon would have been made without them. Like, not a chance. Awesome. It literally would have failed from day one. Like, the amount that they were involved in helping every single day on set, like just fixing problems that we had, because it was an extremely challenging film. And all my films, like they have been and continue to be just crazy supportive, crazy helpful. So even though, in the past they said that stuff, I knew that they just wanted me to be happy doing what I wanted to do.
But what gave you the confidence to push through, like, the mask of what they were saying versus what they actually meant?
Because they gave me that confidence, Like,
ironic.
Yeah, no, and,
Wow.
and they think they know that. I mean, they were the ones who always said, you can do anything you want to do, and you should do anything you want to do. You have, like, the potential to, whatever you do it well, One thing I was never allowed to do as a kid was half-ass things, If there was a project, that's probably what got me into video. Like, if there was, my first, experience foray into video was a social studies project, and I think that probably was just a write-up. But my parents said, no, go extra, do more, make a video, do something different. So there was always that push to succeed in anything. And I think that's super valuable.
It's mentality and
Yeah.
mindset, right? That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. Cool.
So, yeah, despite the, jokes towards that, I know.
You still were able to overcome it, ironically, because of what they instilled.
Yeah, and
which is dope, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're happy for that.
Cool.
For sure.
All right, dope, man. I will see you in 5 minutes.
Cool.
Hey, AP. Take my Kembuka for us. Not sponsored, but shout outs Kembuka.
No, that was a sigh of, I wish I had like an extra 10 seconds. But it's okay. Still have a few more rounds.
Talk about it. Give the people insight to the process.
What process? Oh, right. We're making a beat, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, yeah, again with the live studio audience here. All two of you. So, I want to go back to Guyon, but not necessarily just revolve the whole interview around that. But just one thing I noticed in Guyon was actually the end credits. Yes, I actually did watch the end credits, right? And I noticed that you did a lot for Guyon, right? Like you produced, directed, edited. What am I missing here? Rewrote. Am I missing something?
No. I think that's it. I mean, I made the end credits.
So, I just noticed, like, you wear multiple hats, right? And I just wondered, like, is that something you find yourself doing in a lot of your own projects? Like, just delving into multiple different fields? Or is there, like, one field that you prefer to stick to?
Yeah, I think overall, I'm definitely a director. I think it depends on the project. On a lot of the smaller independent level stuff, I wasn't the lead producer. I did not do the most producing work, but I did some because we needed it.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. I think every director, as they're up and coming, is a producer in some ways.
Yeah.
Because you have to be.
Yeah, that's just like music, right? It's like, sure, I'm a music producer, but then I also got into audio engineering. Like, because someone had to mix my songs.
Exactly.
And then now, like, actually, when I started audio engineering, it wasn't even an interest of mine. Like, now it's, like, something I love.
Yeah.
Like, now I love it almost as much as production, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and, like, so totally relatable on that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, editing. I was always editing because who else would edit my stuff when I was 10? And then I've continued to edit because, I mean, there's some good editors that I've worked with, but often when I'm doing a film like this, it's like I know what I want, so I just want to do it.
Right. You have that certain level of just creative control, right?
Yeah, which is nice. And sometimes you need someone to yell at you and be like, hey, cut this scene. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, right? Because it's so easy to just get caught up in, like, the creative side and then be like, oh, logistically, thank you, Danny. Yes. Oh, that's why Danny's our manager. But yeah, it's like, that wasn't even a funny joke, man. No, but yeah, it's like so easy as a creative just get caught up in like the creative side of things that sometimes it's like, oh, I gotta cut this. What do you mean I gotta cut this? Right?
Yeah, and I've definitely had that. Guyon, we cut an entire scene. We shot.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, I think you kind of get more used to it as you go. In the beginning, I definitely was resistant, but then I was like, yay, wait, if I get too close to this, it's difficult. So it depends on the role, but, I do editing and animating. I also have this, it's stupid, I have this compulsion after I shoot, I always go home and edit what we shot, like, immediately. So I'm talking, like,
I totally get that.
stay up till 4:30 a.m. every time. To get, and then the crew's always happy. I was like, oh wow, it's ready in the morning.
Yeah.
But I always want to go and check it because there's this like compulsion in my head. It's like, oh wait, is this gonna cut? Is this gonna work? Is this gonna work
do
together?
these shots actually work after
Exactly.
I edit it, or like do we need to take more? Yeah, I do the same thing with music. It's like sometimes we'll record something here, and like the next day I'll just like wake up and like spend the whole day like mixing his vocals.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it's like, oh, like, is it good, or do I need to come back here and record again? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more to just like assuage my fears because a lot of times I can't go back and shoot it. It's just like, oh god, is there a way to make it work? And then
that's the difference between like film and music. Is just like, I guess I have that luxury of being able to like.
It is a luxury.
Yeah, no, definitely, because like in film, it's like, listen, we got this one day, and we got to get all these shots in. So and that's pretty scary. Like
I can't watch my stuff anymore. I just close my eyes in screenings. Like I can't. Literally, because I see the mistakes and that's it. I can't do it.
So, like, what are any struggles, or like, I guess not even struggles, like, what are the upsides and downsides you see to taking the approach of, like, taking on multiple roles versus just, like, focusing on one?
Yeah. Time. Like, the producer I work with, mostly Dylan, will say this all the time, but it's like you have to be cognizant of how much time you're spending on any one thing, because can your attentions be focused better on somewhere else? And it's not just, if you have 100 hours, let's just say, can you spend 50 and 50? Maybe, but if you didn't spend the 50 there, maybe you'd only spend 55 here, but your brain is clearer to go and think about that, So I think in an ideal sense, like all I do is direct. I wouldn't have to deal with any logistics. I wouldn't have to deal. I do like editing, though. I don't know. We'll see.
Right, yeah.
But
like, there's definitely, like, parts of the process where it's like, oh, would I cut this out? I don't know. Like,
there's some stuff I shoot and I'm like, okay, I don't need to cut this because it's pretty simple how it's going to get to cut together. There's other stuff I shoot and I'm like, wow, it's really important that I hang here. Like, I have that mentality. And I think, I've worked with editors in the past who are good, and then I find myself overriding them, and I'm always like, well, this is on me because I need to understand that there's other perspectives, and other people understand this too. So, it's about finding the right people to work with, someone who can help you handle all the logistic sides, someone who can help you handle, the art side, whatever it is, and then working together.
So, like, why would you say directing is the one thing you really identify with?
I think, maybe it sounds terrible, but I think it's because you get the most control.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, as a creative, it's like, it's great to have control, right?
Yeah.
Like, personally, I wouldn't send my songs out to a mixing engineer because it's like, I know I can do it myself.
Yeah.
It's like, I have that control, right?
Yeah. And I think you have the most agency over the story. And that's not always good. I think that there is too much of a focus on the director these days. Really what I'm doing is taking a lot of people who are better than me at different things and just adding 5%. Just getting them to work a bit together, nudging them in the right direction. If I work with Adam, who was a co-creator on this for sure, but on Guyon, but if I work with him on other stuff, he might frame a shot which is almost perfect, and I'll just do a little thing that makes it just a tiny bit better.
Touch to it, right?
So really you're sort of like maybe the conductor of a symphony, although I don't know much about that, so I'm assuming.
To be honest, I don't either.
But you can't do it without the people in the crowd, and they're just as important.
Yeah. All right, cool. Oh man.
You're getting kicked out again.
Keep going overtime.
You didn't kick him out. I don't know.
Ow. That's my ass. How you doing, man? How you finding this?
Pretty cool.
Yeah?
Pretty cool. How are you finding that?
Stressful.
Stressful?
I gotta come here and just like try and let go.
Dude, I can't imagine doing that. Do you ever go there and get something that he's done? You're like, shit.
Shit? Yeah, all the time. No, it's probably vice versa. This dude's probably like, what the hardest thing is, like, you go there and you're like, what the hell does this represent? but you just got to leave it alone because he probably has his own artistic reasons for putting there, which I will discover later. And
Right,
it's like,
right,
don't
right.
touch the other person's part of it almost, right? Which is interesting. Cool. So with Guyon, you're telling a dope story about the first African-American man in space. What was it like just telling the story, like such an unknown and underrepresented story, right? It's like, this is not really talked about. It's not really a headline that people sort of talk about in history class, etc. So what was it like for you to sort of tell that story that's super unknown and underrepresented? And I guess also why?
Yeah, it was daunting for sure because we were, like you said, telling a story that's unknown. It was also, I think in the beginning there was a lot of hesitation because we were saying, okay, can we tell this story? You know,
Talk to me about what that means.
Well, there's, you know, it's a story about a black guy's experiences coming up through NASA, and here I am, a white Jewish guy in Toronto, not even in the same country. So, you know, what do I have to bring to that story? So it was a lot of us saying, okay, what can we bring to the story, and, you know, can we make this work? And I think, you know, talking with Guy himself and getting him on board and, you know, hearing him out and understanding what it was for him was, you know, instrumental in that. And then, you know, I mentioned this earlier, but just the way we worked with the cast and the rest of the crew was, you know, trying to bring everyone in and get as many perspectives as we could, and then offering what we could, and then understanding what we couldn't, and creating something together.
Well, that's really interesting to me. Like the concept of like I just like, this is a subject that I don't understand, and maybe making the decision of like either we don't touch this subject or we bring someone else in to like tell that story. Like, can you don't have to give a tangible example, but can you walk me through the process of exactly what you just said around like what you can and can't do almost?
Well, yeah, so I was mentioning, you know, our rehearsals were kind of conversations where we were just saying, okay, here's the scene, these are the emotions we want to bring out, these are the emotions that you're each feeling, but let's, you know, how do your experiences, how do your perspectives play on that? And I was mentioning earlier, but you were headphoned in, but, you know, our cast was really amazing with that. We had the grandfather in the film is named Walter Borden, who, I don't know if you heard, but he's won the Order of Canada for his work as a black and gay
That's
activist.
awesome.
Yeah, amazing guy. And, you know, I spent like several hours on the phone with him just talking about the script, and, you know, he was saying, like, this was my family, too, when I was growing up, and so that was hugely helpful. And then just talking with Guy and getting, you know, because it's not really the story you expect, and it's also a story, it's not a story of a perseverance through racism. It's not a story of perseverance through obstacles. It's a story of an internal struggle. It's a story of him facing a spotlight and saying, how do I do this? And that's something that I understand. That's something that I can help with. So those elements, yes. And then other elements, no. So it's, you know, it's about finding what can I bring? And then
Common ground?
Yeah.
Interesting. How did you discover, like, I'm assuming just through constant conversation and, like, interviewing, what was the point at which you realized, like, this is where I can tackle it from and sort of, like, empathize with that perspective of, oh, my God, I'm in the spotlight. What do I do? Like, I guess, sorry, I'm not phrasing my question very well here, but, like, what was the moment at which you realized that was the angle that would almost be the most effective for you as a director to go in with?
I think from the beginning, because, you know, when we talked to him, I mentioned this earlier, but I was saying when we first asked him, like, hey, you know, what kind of racism did you experience growing up? And he said, none, I didn't. You know, I was pretty sheltered from it, unfortunately. And we said, what kind of obstacles did you get?
Fortunately.
Yeah, well, yes, no, I mean,
but yeah.
We said, what kind of obstacles did you experience, you know, getting to where you were? And he said, you know, none, I just kind of did my work. And so even as we were reading his memoirs and talking with him on the phone and trying to tease out the conflict in the story, we kept kind of getting shut down. Because
it's like, wait a second.
He was just like this the most even keel, like humble, modest guy to ever spoken to, ever met. I mean, but then in the end, Adam and I, when we were writing, we had a cue card, and I think he still has it. It says, what makes Guy the reluctant hero?
Ooh,
so that was our central question. We said, okay, Guy is obviously a role model, and he's obviously done a lot of great things. But why the hesitation to step into that role? And I think that's something maybe not everyone, but I think it's something everyone can empathize with. There are people expect things of us all the time, and you know, especially with increasingly digital age. Like, I have a social media presence, which I am terrible at keeping up, but that does say something about me. And is it me? Not at all.
Right.
You know?
It's expectations that other people impose on you.
Exactly.
That you haven't even necessarily considered, and it's almost like you have to, right? It's like as a brown dude in music, it's like I have to talk about curry in my music and be unapologetically brown. I enjoy it, but it's at the same time, if I didn't, like, it would suck to just have all these people imposing those expectations on me.
Yeah,
But
it does suck. But
yeah,
it
but
happens.
at a certain point, like, you almost recognize like a greater responsibility.
Which I think you see in the film.
Yeah, which I won't film it. I mean, I won't ruin it. I won't ruin it, rather. Sorry. I definitely won't film
You
it.
can
but I won't
go for
ruin
it, man, honestly.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. The reluctant hero. I really like that. Cool. We're out of time here, but
Cool.
that's a damn soundbite right there. Cool.
Sometimes when I'm alone editing or just in general alone, I'll look off to the camera. That doesn't exist because I watch too much of The Office, so it's nice to have these cameras on.
We love The Office.
Okay.
Cringe comedy is like that's our brand. You know, like
Nice.
we, so much you can do with that.
Yeah, man.
So, as I was going into earlier, when I first started talking to you, when I was watching Guy on Emotion, and I love that you brought this up at the beginning because I want to dig more into this later on, and now we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So, emotion is something that, like, I definitely felt during certain scenes of the movie, and like there were certain scenes that just gave me goosebumps, you know. And
Great.
like, yeah, no, that's why I left it. Like, it wasn't even like about the production quality or anything. It was just like I left it feeling something, and I was like, oh, that's what makes it, in my mind, that's what makes great art, right? And from a director's perspective, like, I want to get like a bit technical. Do you have any like go-to or like favorite techniques that you use when you're trying to convey emotions through film?
Trying to think. In general, I would say no, because the idea is use whatever technique sells that emotion. So
Right.
that changes.
Right.
But looking at my own stuff, I like dollies.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
think everyone does.
Yeah.
I like smooth, like large, smooth camera movements.
Oh, I definitely noticed that. Yeah. Smooth.
And long takes. I think I like something the Coen brothers do a lot is showing the reaction to a sentence rather than the sentence itself.
Right.
So I think that often tells you more. I think it's something that's still evolving, and it is also something that's constrained. Like a lot of times, I don't have a dolly. I don't have room for a dolly. I don't have the budget for a dolly.
Right.
I don't have the time to set up it. You know, so you know, that's why I think each project calls for its own thing. You know, I'm planning a film probably in January that a friend of mine wrote that I don't think will have much camera movement at all. Like, I think it's just going to be like a bunch of wide, locked off shots. Partially it's because there isn't a lot of budget for it and we got to be simple. But also I think that's what tells that story best.
Right. And like also like sometimes having those constraints makes you work within a framework where you have to make it work.
Yeah.
To fit the emotion.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it might not be your optimal scenario to convey that emotion, but it's like you can twist it in a way
for
where
sure.
it's like.
And sometimes you just you push until you can make it work. Like I think you guys saw the film I did a few years ago, White Rabbit.
Rohan watched it. I didn't get to
Okay,
check
no
it out
worries.
yet.
But my grandfather and my dad too helped build a cable cam to hold our camera running through the forest. But because I was like, I want a cable cam, we can't do it. And we're like, wait, it's
Sometimes
just
DIY,
wires.
right? That's like the way
Crazy.
to go. Yeah.
I still can't believe that worked, but the atmosphere on set when it did was so fun. I think that was one of my favorite set moments. We were just going crazy for like 5 minutes.
For our first music video, we took a similar approach where it's like everything was do it yourself. Like from set design, like there was one scene where it's literally Rose's basement with a projector background, but no one could tell.
No.
You know, like the way it was framed, no one could tell.
Oh yeah, there's so many things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
like sometimes having constraints is like great creatively.
Yeah.
So one example I actually noticed, obviously being a musician, I noticed the music, but like I'm not sure if this is a director's choice, but like the lack of music during the more intimate scenes where a guy is talking to his wife,
Yeah.
like I felt like that added more to like the emotion of that scene of being a bit more close, a bit more vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah. Emotion is music is like a cheat code, I think, for emotion. And I think if you overuse it, an audience can tell, and it kind of dulls your senses.
Yeah.
Because you see it in all the like Marvel Avenger films, like, oh, okay, here's our, introspective moment, and then this music drags you in like that.
Yeah.
So I get bored of that, and I think subconsciously an audience kind of realizes that and says,
Exactly.
I'm getting forced to feel an emotion, and I want you to actually just feel it
Right.
instead.
So is that a director's choice, or is that like whoever's behind music when it comes?
Yeah, that's my choice. In general, I'll just say these sections need music. This is the tone. This is the feel. It's very difficult, I think, for me to talk with musicians because I don't have enough of a music background.
Right.
So I definitely want to learn more on that side. But generally, I'll say maybe I'll find a temp track and I'll say something like this. These are the key notes. This is where I want it to peak. This is where I want it to break. This is maybe some instruments that I think could work, but you tell me. And then they give me something, and I was like, cool, this is great, but can we make it, happier here, slower here?
Yeah.
And then I just try to use English to convey into music, which is a mess. But
Right, but like it's
generally
like
works, yeah.
it's like what I found talking to other artists is like when you're able to just, at least if you're able to convey emotions to them, like it becomes a bit more clear like what they're going. It depends on the musician too.
Yeah.
Like some people will be like, okay, but what does that mean? Right.
Yeah,
Like some
yeah.
people need more like concrete words to describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends on who you're working with, right? Would you say you have a directing style, like anything you find yourself going towards in your films, or is it more flexible depending on what the story's about?
Yeah, it's something you just asked too. I think, generally it's going to be what does the script call for. I think, I don't know, I like people. I think that sounds weird, but I think...
No, I get it.
like, I like stories that focus on people,
Yeah.
but I do find myself drawn to more, epic, not epic, but, more intense, like, grandiose stuff, like going to space or, a post-apocalyptic film, something like that, because I think there is sometimes too much of a focus on films being art, and we forget that they're entertainment, too.
Right. Oh,
So-
I like that.
I
like that.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't want my films to just be accepted and understood by 10% of the crowd. I want 10% of the crowd to understand maybe a deeper meaning and get more out of it than 90, but I still want 90 to not be bored.
To just enjoy it, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many levels. Okay,
Because,
dope.
I think some people are we try to be so artistic and we lose why we're doing it and we forget,
okay.
Let's
I like
make
that.
something fun.
Right, that's great for me to try and use as inspiration over at the creative station.
Sweet.
That idea of music as a reflection of society, I think that's
Yeah, you see it a lot. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
See what? What the hell are y'all talking about?
He's talking about you, actually. Yeah, it was kinda awkward.
That whole round is about me.
Yeah.
Nice.
They were just...
Well, if you want to know more about me, just follow me at Roheezy Raj on Instagram. That's ROHEEZYRAJ.
He's got it. You can learn... You'll have your whole bio on there, too, right? Like
Yeah,
your life
exactly,
story.
man.
Perfect.
Oh, that was some great cringe comedy right there, folks. Shout outs to dad jokes. All right, cool. So you're quite often telling the story of a very diverse array of characters, right? Throughout your work so far. That's like no, not really.
Yeah, I guess.
But like some are fictional, some are non-fictional, some are from the past, some are from a post-apocalyptic future. How do you, as a director, develop empathy for the characters that you're sort of portraying and their story prior to even like diving into the process? I know we sort of touched on this with Guyon, but I just want to hear your approach and philosophy overall to developing empathy for the characters you're working with.
Yeah. I think I'd say I have empathy for everyone in general. I don't mean that like in a wow, amazing, you're such an empathetic guy. I think everyone does. Like, we connect with people on a human emotion, and I think everyone has things that make them who they are. And in a fictional or true scenario, I think the key is to find what those things are and bring them out and say, okay, what's driving this person to do this thing? And I think that, really helps you sell who they are, tell who they are.
So how do you? Okay, so let's say it's because Guyon's a specific example of a person who's actually alive and who has existed. Let's take like White Rabbit for instance, where you're where you're sort of going through the story of a mother who's protecting her son in a post-apocalyptic sort of future. Like for a character that doesn't exist, how do you model empathy for those types of characters?
It's working with a writer, and I think it's finding influences in your own life, and I think part of it maybe is a bit instinctual and thinking, okay, what's a common human theme? In White Rabbit, for example, the kid, both the child and the mother go through a character arc, a character development, which is, I think most people know that's important in story.
Of course.
But for the kid, it's coming out of his shell, like saying basically his first words, sort of accepting that he has to be an active player in this fight to survive. And for the mother, I think it's even more important, and Bree's such a great actress, but they're both great. But for the mother, it's like her whole focus is just getting this kid alive, fed, surviving the night, surviving, the world. But then I think her emotional arc is realizing that it's not just about that. It's not just that you're living, it's how you're living. And so you see that when she's about to kind of murder in cold blood, those men who attack them.
Yeah.
But then what she learns from him and what he learns from her too is she learns that, there's more to life than just living. I need to also, it's not just what world, it's not, we want to live in a world, it's what kind of world do I want to live in? What kind of world am I teaching my son? So I can't just teach my son, here's how to skin a rabbit, here's how to shoot a bow, here's how to, make a fire. I have to teach my son, mercy and compassion and empathy in the way I want, the world to be.
Yeah, there's almost that like day-to-day like survival instinct.
Yeah.
But it's like contrasted with this like larger purpose
Yeah.
of like beyond just surviving every day. It's like there's morals, there's values that you sort of have to
Right.
live by as
Yeah.
a human.
And I think that's what's interesting about film is because we can do that in a post-apocalypse scenario, which none of us have any experience with, but it's true here too.
Right, but it's like sure that's a fictional scenario, but it's not like it doesn't represent real scenarios that
Exactly,
people are going
yeah.
through on a day-to-day basis and like in war-ridden like countries, right? Were there any like specific influences from a real life perspective that influenced you to tell that story?
Yeah, because I wouldn't even say war in countries. I think it happens to you and me. Like I live in as much as my life is whack and just who knows what's happening the next day, but I still live in a routine. It's still easy for me to get trapped in my own cycles. It's still easy, I think, for me to convince myself of things, but I sometimes need an outside source to come in and say, wait, like, hold on. This is what's really important. It's not, it's not social media. It's not your friend group. It's not, anything but you and your values. Because I think we all have the idea of who we are in our heads, and it's very easy to convince ourselves that that's who we are. But
Like
then when
our
it comes,
ideal version.
yeah, like there's a perfect me inside my head, but you don't see that. And if I don't actively try to bring that out, I think that doesn't exist. And it's very easy to just bury it, under just the guise of like normality. But you think you have to actively go out and say, how do I want to change myself? How do I want to change the world to be better, to be, what I want to be?
So there's like almost the idealistic, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like the idealistic, like almost like very selfish almost version of yourself that's like you care about yourself and your own motives and let's say your career or whatever, and then it's like zooming out and figuring out your own piece in this whole puzzle.
Yeah. Well, I would say like in my idealistic version of self is the one that does care about all these things, and I think it's easy to tell ourselves that we're this idealistic, person, but then our actions don't always reflect that. So we have to step back and say, wait, I'm convincing myself that, this is what's important, this is who I am, but really I'm not.
You're not.
I don't have to be either.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go finish the beat now.
All right. Is that the last?
That was
closing
that was
it
the
off?
last round, but AP's actually gonna come here with the surprise.
Oh,
for
right,
you.
right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Sick.
And then I'll see you soon. In
Okay.
like 5 minutes to show you the beat.
Wicked. I'm excited.
Hey, AP, stop cheating, man.
Yeah, that's so hard. You guys just get cut off, man.
Yep.
Oh, I can never do this.
It's part of the game.
Wow.
It's all part of the game.
How is it picking up his stuff?
It's an interesting.
Is he worse? Is he worse than you? You can tell me.
I mean,
I won't tell him.
he might watch this back later, right? So wouldn't want to say anything like that.
All right.
No, it's always an interesting process. It's like we're talking about, like bringing different perspectives to it. It's like sometimes he'll put stuff there, and I'll have no idea why it's there. But sometimes I'll have my own reason why it's there, and sometimes it'll align, and sometimes it'll be like two separate things. You know.
True. That's cool though.
Yeah, but it's part of the game.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much fun. So along with producing, like I told you, I also mix engineer.
Yeah.
And one thing getting into mix engineering I've really noticed is like just the art of subtlety is something that I really like, right? So just with that context of the art of subtlety, I just want to play a clip from one of our songs, and then we'll dive into it a bit later. Hit it, Cheyenne.
Cause I'm fed up with the love and susceptible to hate, feeling none of the above when it comes to answer fakes. Pigeons pitching me to take my breath soon as I beg, trying to fend off all these bugs like they ain't federally safe. Depression's here today, so those friendships go astray. Shit, I've been developing some negativity. The right things got me left with just the pain. That's what turned me self-centered with the selfishness to gain.
Nice.
So
damn.
that was our song "Losing Friends," which you can get on Spotify, Apple Music, and SoundCloud. You know, everything. You can get it everywhere. You know. But anyways, where I wanted to go with that was attention to detail. Right. It's just in that short clip, like there was so much attention to detail from our side of like just why are certain things there, right? And like just little subtleties. For example, I don't want to give too much away, but like just a general example is like. There's one line where he's talking about depression, and like as a result, as a producer, what I did is I made that section a bit emptier and also more reverb, like more space to give it a more lonely feeling.
Nice, yeah.
Right, and it's once again down to emotion, right?
Yeah.
So my question for you, based off the art of subtlety, is why do you think good filmmakers, musicians, like all sorts of artists, why do you think they spend so much time toiling over the small details, even though they go unnoticed by the larger majority of people?
Yeah. I always say that 90% of a film is 10% of the film. Like 90% of everything that you're seeing is just.
I wish I could go back to the beat and put like that. No, that's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true because, I mean, like, look, you can go out and you watch a film in a theater and you know it's Hollywood, and you watch a film maybe on YouTube, and you know it's not, but it's very, very, very hard, even for someone who has some more technical knowledge like me, to go out and say, okay, what are they doing that's different? But it's the tiny things that make the difference, and that last 10%, it is the difference. It's the difference between you shooting on your phone,
right,
you know, which maybe is a valid way to do something, and, you know, shooting with a full setup, getting a full lighting crew, getting color, everything you need. And so I think generally, I don't know how to say. I don't think this is just me. Like, I don't think this is, like, I don't want to sound pretentious in this way, but the goal is to hit 100, right? Like, you have to aim for 100. You can't accept mediocrity, and that's why I don't know if I was saying it to you or him, but like I can't watch my own films because I just like there's too many mistakes, and that's fine. I'll get better the next time, which is the idea. But I think that was often in film school, like a flaw. In the way we were taught was that you could make a bad film and pass and have no repercussions and still be have some laud. And obviously, like the better you did, the better you got graded. But when we have such like this objective grading marker, we should be harder on ourselves.
Right.
We have to. We can't say, oh yeah, that was okay. I think there's a quote. It's like there are no two worse words than good job, something like that, for art, because good job's like no,
it's not good enough.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not right,
and that's okay. I think that's like part of the struggle as an artist. I'm sure you understand too. Is like you make something out of crap. How do I do better?
Yeah, every
You know?
time. It's like I can listen back to songs we made in January.
Yeah.
Now, and I can be like it's dope. Like I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good song, but like I know when I hear it, I'm like, oh, I could
Totally.
have tweaked this. I could have
What's
done
your?
that. I could have.
How long do you like a song before you hate it?
Okay, so since I do a lot of the mixing,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm constantly have it on repeat, just
Right.
like because I need that 10%,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I'm just like tweaking small details, and then so it depends on the song. Some songs like I'll still like it after I'm done mixing,
Mm-hmm.
and once we release it. And I'm not the type of person to go back and listen to my songs a lot after
Yeah,
we
yeah.
release it. I just like once in a while, I'll be like, oh, this is really good. Like I like it. Or some songs will be like, I'll listen to it and then I'll be like, like I've spent so much time on it. I don't want to hear it for the next like year. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I get that totally. I like, sometimes I edited a music video for the Zolas. I don't know if you know them, but they're always on the radio and it's always that song. And it just kills me because I've listened to it thousands of
Right,
times.
because like editing, same thing. You just have the music in the background
Yeah.
the whole time, and it's
Yeah,
like,
it's-
oh, I
yeah.
can't do it anymore. Yeah.
it's hard.
One thing I wanted to bring up was like one thing I find about subtlety is that it's collectively it has the effect on the emotion, right? Like it's like most people won't notice like the small details themselves, but they'll notice the collective effect of the small details
Yeah.
that it has on the film as a whole, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tiny stuff, like an eye light. What does it say to have an eye light or not?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like most viewers won't really look into it,
Yeah.
but they'll know there's a certain feeling associated with it, right? And then
Yeah.
another thing is also being able to watch something back, and then each time you watch it, it's kind of like a new watch because you're able to see new details that you might, if you're that type of like creative, or like
Yeah.
even if you just like looking into art like that in
Yeah.
that way. So
I
you
have that
can-
all the time.
yeah.
My dad was saying, and he was on set the whole time, like helping us, crazy amount through Guyan, but he was saying like, I still watch it and I'm like, oh, I didn't see that before, which is cool. Just a nice feeling.
Cool.
Yeah. So I try to get that as much as I can.
Cool. On that subtlety thing again, how important do you think subtlety is in film as a part of your own process?
Yeah, I think it's probably the most important. I think like my general mantra is like, okay, I don't want to be over the top. I don't want to hit you on the nose with a hammer. I don't know if that's the quote, but what
I know what you mean though, yeah.
Like that I mentioned earlier, we cut a scene, like that's why we did. We're like, wait, we said this already.
Right.
We don't need that again. And
Right.
like the viewer gets bored. I don't know. I don't want to patronize anyone.
Right.
I don't want people to feel like, okay, come on, like I get this. I think because it's a film and because it's an art, it's always like obviously it's always subjective, but the reason it's interesting is because you, the viewer, see it and then you create your own, like that emotional isn't something I can just give you. It's something that I just want to create with you, and that
Right.
you're half of it always. So if I'm not subtle, then it feels too forced, and it's like that. Then that's me giving you that emotion. It's like, no, I have to give you here's the pieces, and then you say, oh, okay, I'm gonna take them, put them in together in my own build my own Jenga tower, and then
Right.
it's different for everyone.
And then it's kind of like a puzzle. Like you can piece it how you want to,
Yeah.
but like, and like there's you have a vision with it, but it's like once again, it's like working with creatives, right?
Yeah.
It's like you get that perspective, except this is after the whole process is done. It's like you get to hear different perspectives that like maybe you might not have even intended.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, oh, like it's so interesting that you even took it in that way, right?
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I think like subtlety is just those pieces, like those puzzle pieces. Like here's a few, and then you're like, oh, I like this. I respond to this. Adam, the co-creator of Guyan, like he had just seen Mid-90s, which is great. If you haven't seen it, go see it. If it's still out.
I'll check it out after this interview.
It's a fantastic film. But he was saying I've never responded to a film that much because that was my life growing up. Being this skater kid in the '90s, listening to this exact
Right.
music.
Just, like,
an older brother
relatability
who was
overall, right?
messing with me all the time. That was his experience, and I think people have that. I didn't have that experience, but I also skate, and I also had a younger cousin who we would come around with us all the time, and I was like, oh my god, that is this kid. We called him Sparky. They called this kid Sunburn. Like, this is, the same person almost. So, yeah, there's, I think that subtlety is getting people to put themselves into it too, and then find something new.
Awesome. And that's perfect timing because
Sick.
what are we doing now?
What are we doing now?
Are we
wicked.
showing the trailer? Right. Tell us about any projects you have going on.
Sure. So I'm doing a lot of commercial film, which is fun. And then I'm sort of in the ideation and writing process for a few more. There's a feature that I'm trying to get the time to sit down and write, which is sort of a time travel-y thing. So that will, sometime coming soon.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I just have to make sure it makes sense. Go do all the loops and then
Yeah.
also engages people the whole way through.
And then are you writing that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying I got to just get to a cabin somewhere and lock myself away and just write it because life's a little too busy. And then I'm writing, I think I might do another biopic, actually, another short. And then I also have a comedy, I think, that I'm writing, which is going to be pretty funny. But I've never really done a comedy, so it's a good opportunity to, try it out.
Cool.
So yeah, stay tuned.
And you want to plug your socials?
Yeah, I'm terrible at this, but my Instagram is Sagi KR. It's SAGIKR. You can follow it.
Yeah,
it's right here.
It'll be down below.
Okay, here, just okay. Yeah, check that out. I'm very bad at posting, so maybe that's a good thing because I won't overflood your feed. Otherwise, yeah, I post my work not frequently enough, but on skrfilms.com, so you can see some cool stuff there. And otherwise, that's probably about it. You can follow, so I have a documentary which I didn't talk about too much, but it's a really cool one called Before the Plate, which is exploring, that's the trailer playing next. Cool. That's at Before the Plate and has an Instagram, and our producer's much better at social media than me, so. What's your producer's name? Dylan Scherer, he's great. Yeah, and yeah, so there's actually a good following for that, and he's great at updating it. The website's pretty cool too, so check it out.
Awesome.
Anything else? And then Guyon has its own page as well, which is at Guyon the film, but there's links everywhere somewhere.
Cool, yeah, it'll all be down below once we re-upload it after the live stream. So anyways, now we're going to get to the beat, but first we need to do a bit of setup, so we're going to play a bit of the trailer from Before the Plate.
Sweet.
Right now.
It's been an amazing journey.
We're making one plate with 10 main ingredients, and step by step, we're gonna follow those ingredients back to the farms they came from. I'm John Horn. I'm the executive chef of Canoe Restaurant, downtown Toronto. My love from cooking came from being around it growing up. My grandmother was a fantastic cook. I got the opportunity to spend a lot of time on a farm when I was younger. And for me as a chef and a cook, it gives me a lot of respect. To me, it's important to know where everything's coming from. I want to know where my beef's raised from. I don't want to just go and grab a package and be like, I'm happy with that. I want to know that animal's had a good life. That's why I'm on this journey, is because that's important to me to learn about that stuff.
So we need more consumers to be interested in asking the questions about the food they're eating, which is really what's required for people to know what's on their plate. I think that's what happens in those large agribusiness models, is that the producer and the consumer get too far removed from each other, and they can never have those conversations.
All right, we're back, so check out that trailer. It's at Before the Plate on Instagram. Yep. And I believe the documentary is also on Vimeo.
It's not released yet.
It's not released yet. Sorry, it's not released yet. But
it'll be somewhere.
But follow the socials and check out how you can to get updated on how you can check that out.
Yeah,
shout out to the whole crew on that one. Cool. So this is the most
Sweet.
exciting
Let's
part
do it.
of the Keralanka Show. We're going to play you the beat.
Cool.
That represents your journey, your story, based off everything we've learned about you so far in this very brief hour. And then we can just have a genuinely good time, and then
Awesome.
and then we'll explain the beat, and then we'll go from there.
I'm
Cool.
excited.
Let's run it.
is the meaning of this?
Where am I?
Cool.
Sick.
That was
Wow.
good.
Holy shit. Dude,
Shorter than usual.
That was insane. I cannot believe you can do that in an hour. Holy crap.
Thank you.
Man, it flows so well between you two. That's I can tell when there were sections, but that's awesome.
Yeah, dope.
We
Okay.
definitely like intertwine our
Yeah.
sections sometimes.
That's good to hear, man. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna hop right into it and
Yeah,
explain
please.
my side of
Okay.
what I added, and
Awesome.
then AP can do his side as well. Cool. So one of the first things you mentioned was, which I found super interesting, was like in movies you have that surface layer, and then you have the sublayer. With the surface layer driving like the scene itself and what's happening, but the sublayer is like the emotion being driven. So starting out, what I wanted to do was we have these sort of two layers here, which is basically these sort of chords where, and then actually in the background you can hear the sort of distorted like these notes. And actually what happens here, which I can show you guys, is over time, this sort of second layer over here is rising. And what that represents is, you can literally see I call this the emotion and call this the surface. So that sort of represents the split between like the surface layer of what's obviously in front of you with the scene versus like the sublayer of emotion that's slowly sort of building up over time. And AP added a lot more here too, but basically it continues to build on the emotional sublayer side of things until it finally drops. And then eventually when it drops, you'll notice we have this film roll.
Yeah.
And along with this little quote I found that I think describes your sort of philosophy when it comes to working in general.
Oh, no doubt he does it to perfection.
Because you were talking about your parents instilling that philosophy in you of like, when you do something, just go all the way in. So we wanted that to like represent that.
Totally.
Cool. And then let's see, what else? I found it super interesting that you talked about Guyon being the reluctant hero. Like that stood out to me a lot. So we had this like almost like very interruptive section with these strings over here, which I feel reminds me of like when a protagonist is sort of faced with this obstacle.
Yeah, it's like tense.
Very tense, yeah. And the quotes basically represent that feeling of confusion and not knowing what to do and being hit with this new world of like like everyone's eyes being on you, right?
What's this all about?
What do you want of me?
Where do you get this?
What is the meaning of this?
Where am I?
Well, if I told you my secrets, okay. No, it's Splice. It's a sample library we have.
That's awesome.
So that's what that represents as the reluctant hero. And then that's everything for me. And then you want to go ahead, AP?
Then, so then when I hopped on, the first thing, so you were talking about emotion, right? And actually, I wanted to do something like what Ro did here, but as soon as I hopped on, it was already there, right? So what I actually did though was this is a more of a technical thing that I did. I just filtered it a bit to give it more of a spacey feeling, right? I know you like space and like so I just also it just added a bit more to the emotion to me because otherwise here let me just A/B it so people can hear it.
So this is
without any filtering, and then this is with it's a bit more back. It just feels bigger to me, right? So I did that, and then what I did afterwards was I actually wanted to take a bit of inspiration from we're talking about space films and Interstellar is one of my favorite scores when it comes to space films because it's
Hans Zimmer, right?
Hans Zimmer, it's so minimalistic, and also those guitars were starting to remind me a bit of like what like Hans would kind of do with his score. So I actually just added in this like piano. I did it really quick, so I'm in no way comparing myself to Hans Zimmer, guys.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Rohan Zimmer though.
But, first I added this lower piano layer.
Man, there's so much stuff I didn't see, which is awesome.
10%?
Yeah, totally.
10%, yeah.
There's that, and then
I definitely feel Interstellar from that.
Yeah. It's a bit off right now. It was supposed to be a bit more but that was definitely
I didn't notice that. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, it's a bit
Okay.
buried right now.
That's sick.
You guys will notice it in the mixed version once that's out.
Released.
You know?
YouTube.com/Keralanka.
Then what I did was just we were speaking on emotion, and I didn't want to take the drums in a typical trap drum like fashion. I wanted it to be a bit like slower feeling. Slower things make me feel a bit more emotional.
Right.
In general. So for the drums, it was very
cool.
It was a very like chill, laid back kind of feeling.
Okay.
But then you talked about, as you can see right here, it says AP fix this. So,
yeah, I fucked up, and I had
now
like
we know.
10 seconds, and I was like, AP, please fix this.
which is really funny because as soon as you said in our last round about music's not just about the art, film is not just about the art, but it's also just about entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Entertaining people. So I was like, why not take it in a bit like a faster pace, right?
Okay,
like.
yeah.
So, and it's funny because Rohan then added these hi-hats right here, which is,
Cool, yeah.
it kind of has a trap feeling to it. So I'm like, oh, let me go with this. And then he also said AP fix this, so I sped up the drums slightly.
What's the string going in? What's the string instrument? Is it a string instrument? Am I crazy? Yeah.
That is, it's a violin. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
Awesome.
speaking of violins, I also added this bass string instrument at the beginning to add a bit more to the feeling in that section.
Wow, I want to use this.
Yes, please. You can.
It's awesome.
What'd you say?
Sorry,
Could
could you say that for the live?
I want to use this in something.
You heard it here first.
There we go. We have a first.
Yeah.
Episode 2.
That's awesome.
Hollywood. Yeah, man. And then for the viewers at home, we were talking about this, but for my final round, Ableton actually crashed, and I spent 5 minutes just getting the program back up and running, and then literally just reverbed out the tail. So there's no deep explanation to that. AP's computer just sucks, but just
It is what it is.
we have to accept our mistakes. You know?
Yeah, and that's part of the creative process. Is shit fucks
flaws
up
in it.
sometimes, and
it on
you just
purpose.
work with it.
Yeah.
We did it on purpose.
Own it.
Metaphors.
Yeah.
So that's it, man. What did
Cool.
you think?
It's awesome. I mean, like you said, there's just so many things that I didn't see. And I look at this, I'm like, wow, I wish I knew more. Like, I wish I could understand it more. But I think that just comes with time, listening to it again. And, hearing you guys talk about it is super cool, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we end off, we just want to ask you one question.
Sure.
And who do you think would make a good guest on the Keralanka Show?
Ooh.
It could be anyone.
Come close to the mic.
Come close to the mic.
We need to capture pure audio.
Pure audio.
So am I someone I know kind of thing that I'd call out?
Anyone you know, or like
Or
you don't have to
of,
know them.
Like, you
Just
don't really
anyone.
have to know them personally. Just anyone, really. Who do you think would fit well in this show?
Well, obviously, I think Adam, the co-creator with Guyan, would be great. I think Dylan, the producer from Before the Plate, would be super interesting because his perspective will be almost the opposite of mine, which is like he'll be way more on the logistics and money and entrepreneurial side, and he's amazing at that. So that would also be cool if that's something you're into. I think. One of my friends, Ryan, and I are trying to get together to work on, some of those shorts. And Ryan is I think a very interesting blend of the creative and the entrepreneuriral side, which would be cool. But then also maybe our mutual friend Diala, who was the art director.
Oh my God, so many friends.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of
so
people.
many friends.
Who's our mutual friend who worked on she was our production designer of Guyan, but there's so many people actually. I don't even know. Honestly,
you gave us 4 names.
I'll give you more later.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank
no
you.
worries. Thank you guys.
Well,
It's
guys,
really cool.
this has been the Keralanka Show. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, whatever you use. We're on there. Follow Sagi as well on all the socials that we plugged earlier this episode. And more episodes to come. So This has been episode 2 of the Keralanka Show, and we is out.
Peace. Thanks.